Standard 7th, Subject History, Chapter 13, Life of the People in Maharashtra. Dear students, the Hindavi Swaraj formed by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was a state for the people, founded with the noble intention of the welfare of the common people, removal of oppression, and the protection of Maharashtra Dharma. Means Shivaji Maharaj founded the Hindavi Swaraj with a view to protect his people and give them freedom from any kind of domination. In the period after Shivaji Maharaj, Maratha power spread to all parts of India. It lasted for about 150 years. We gathered information about the Maratha administration in the last few chapters. In this chapter, we shall study the social conditions and life of the people in that period. Let's begin with social conditions. Agricultural and other occupations based on agriculture were the major sources of production at the village level. The Patil was responsible for the protection of the village and the Kulkarni handled the revenue. You are already aware of the different titles given to the different administrators. The Patil received land as inam for his work as a Patil. He also received a part of the village revenue. The Balutedars were paid in kind, that means in the form of objects, food grains, etc., for the work they did for the village people. The village occupations were divided into Kali and Pandhari. Peasants worked in their fields in the Kali. Kali means land, earth, or soil. And others in Pandhari. Pandhari means within the village precincts. It was considered important to conduct the affairs of the village with mutual understanding. Joint family system was prevalent. So people lived together in joint family system. Now let's learn about customs and traditions. Child marriages were prevalent. It was acceptable to have many wives. There are a few examples of widow marriages in this period. To perform the last rites, burning, burial, and immersion methods were used as per tradition. Muhurta or auspicious occasions were sought for every little thing and also to open battles. People believed in dreams and omens. Anushtans were performed to avoid the wrath of gods and planets. Charitable deeds were also done for the same purpose. Okay, charitable deeds means giving to the poor and the needy the things that they require. Okay, charity. People believed in astrology. There was a general lack of a scientific attitude, and offerings to God, that is Navas, were considered more important than medical treatment. What about the standard of living? A majority of people lived in villages. The villages were mostly self sufficient. Only salt had to be imported from other places. The needs of farmers were limited. They grew jawar, bajra, wheat, ragi, that is nachni, maize, rice, and other grains in their fields. The daily diet consisted of bhakri, onion chutney, and an accompaniment. So diet was quite simple. Barter system was used for everyday transactions. Village houses were simple mud and brick constructions. Vadas with one or two stories were seen in the cities. Rice, dal, chapatis, vegetable salads, milk, and dahi products were mainly included in the rich people's diet. Men wore a dhoti, kurta, angarkha, and mandis. Women wore 9 yard saris and blouses. So, this is about the standard of living. Now, let's learn about the festivals. People celebrated Gudi Padwa, Nag Panchami, Bali Pola, Dasara, Diwali, Makar Sankrant, Holi, Eid, and other festivals. So, most of these festivals are celebrated even today. In the Peshwa period, Ganeshotsava was celebrated in many homes. The Peshwa himself, being a devotee of Ganesha, These celebrations acquired importance. Every year, these celebrations lasted from Bhadrapad Chaturthi up to Ananta Chaturdashi. Dasara being considered as one of the 3.5 most auspicious occasions, many new things were started on this day. Weapons were offered puja, and it was customary to cross the boundaries ceremoniously and distribute apta leaves on Dasara. The Marathas launched their campaigns after Dasara. During Diwali, Pratipada, and Bhaubis, celebrations had special importance. In most of the villages, fairs were held. Wrestling bouts were a common feature of the fairs, which we call as jatras. Goodies were raised to celebrate Gudi Padwa. Celebrations included entertainment programs like songs and dances. Tamasha was a popular form of entertainment. So, this way, various festivals were celebrated during the medieval times as well. Now, let's move on to education part. Pathshalas and madrasas were the institutes that imparted education. Reading, writing, and arithmetic was taught at home. The Modi script was used in most transactions. So, education was also coming to its peak during this period. Let's learn about travels and communication. Transport was carried out by roads through ghats and across bridges on rivers. Cloth, food grains, groceries were transported by loading them on the backs of bullocks. Small boats were used in rivers. Messengers and camel riders carried letters to and fro. So, this way, traveling and communication was also emerging during the medieval period. Sports. Various sports were popular in this period. They were the means of entertainment. Wrestling and martial arts were very popular, as you can see in the picture here. Besides this, Malkham, as you see, then Dand on right hand side on top, that is push-ups, Lathi, which is a game played with stick, Dand Patta, which is using a sword. Both Hati means a Mardani khel, an armed Indian martial art, you can say, were practiced during this period. Hututu, that means Kabaddi, Kho, Atyapatya were the popular outdoor games, and chess, Ganifa dice were popular indoor games. Ganifa means it is a game that is played with the cards. Okay, so this way, sports and entertainment was a part of daily life in medieval India in Maharashtra. Now let's learn about religion and conduct. The two major religions seen in this period were Hindu and Muslim. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj had a liberal religious policy. The general understanding was that everyone should follow their own religion and should not impose it on others. Means you're free to follow whichever religion you want. The government gave grants to pathshalas, temples, madrasas, and mosques. Followers of both religions took part in the celebration of each other's festivals. Varkari, Mahanubhav, Datta, Nath, and Ramdasi Pants were prevalent. Means these are the religious traditions in India. Now let's learn about women's life. Women's life in those days was full of hardships. Their world was confined to the house of first their father and then their husband. Their education was neglected. So girl education was not promoted during medieval India period. Only a few exceptional women had achieved any progress in literacy, administration, and battle skills. They include Veermata Jijabai, Maharani Yesubai, Maharani Tarabai, Umabai Dabade, Gopikabai, Punyashlok Ahilyabai, etc. Customs like child marriage, unequal marriage, widowhood, Keshwapan, Sati, polygamy had imposed harsh restrictions on the way women lived. The period from 1630 CE to 1810 CE is broadly defined as Marathe Shahi. Let us review the art and architecture of this period in brief. Let's begin with sculpture. We find references to restoration of Kasba Ganpati Mandir, building of the Lal Mahal, construction of Rajgarh and Raigad, building of seaforts, etc., that are related to architecture. Hiroji Indulkar was a famous architect of that period. While setting up a village, the usual pattern was roads cutting one another at right angles, stone construction along the sides, and extensive ghats, that is, steps, along the river banks. During the Peshwa period, a drinking water supply system was built like the one at Ahmednagar and Bijapur. The Peshwas built underground pipes, small dams, gardens and courts, tanks, fountains, etc. The Mastani Talav at Diveghat, Hadapsar near Pune city, is worth a mention in this regard. Shaniwar Wada and Vishrambag Wada in Pune, Sarkar Wada in Nasik, Raghunath Peshwa's Wada at Kopargaon, the Wadas of the Satara Chhatrapati, as also the old Vadas at Vai, Minwale, Toke, Srigonde, Pandharpur are symbols of the medieval Vada culture. Baked as well as unbaked bricks were used to build the Vadas. Wooden columns, rafts, boards, dress stones, arches, finely prepared lime, round tiles for the roof, mud and bamboo were all used in the construction. The Vadas were decorated with sketches, paintings, wooden sculptures, and mirrors. Let's see the temples. The temples of this period are built in the Hemadpanthi style of the Yadav period. The Shikhar of the Ambabai temple at Kolhapur, the temples on the Jyotiba hill, Shampu Mahadev temple at Shikhar Shinga Gaganapur, and Grishneshwar temple at Virul are excellent specimens of sculpture. The Bhavani Devi temple on Pratapgarh and the Koteshwar temple at Goa were built by Shivaji Maharaj. Other temples of the Peshwa period are the Kalaram temple at Nasik, the Shiva temple at Trimbakeshwar, the Shiva temples at Kaigaon and Toke on the confluence of the Godavari and Pravarna, and the Mohiniraj temples at Nivase. Now let's learn about the ghats. Stone ghats built on a river or at the confluence of rivers were characteristics of Maratha Shahi. The most remarkable specimen of a ghat is the one at Toki, Pravara Sangam, on the confluence of the Godavari and Pravara. In a flight of steps, there would be one wide step at regular intervals. This would lend beauty to the entire ghat construction. Strong bastands were built at regular intervals so as to prevent damage due to water currents. Bastands means strong walls, as you see in the picture. Painting. The paintings on the walls of Shaniwar Vada are the important ones of the Peshwa period. Raghav, Tanaji, Anuprao, Shivram, Mankoji are some of the important painters of this period. The painter Gangaram Tambat was famous at the time of Savai Madhavrao Peshwa. The Peshwas encouraged painting. Vadas in the Pune, Satara, Minwali, Nashik, Chandwad, and Nipani regions during the Peshwa period had paintings on their walls. Temples at Pandeshwar, Murgaon, Pal, Benwadi, Pashan near Pune have paintings on the walls. The themes of those paintings were Dashavatara, Ganpati, Shankar, Ram Panchayatana, mythological stories, Ramayana, Mahabharata festivals, and so on. At Jamod in Vidarbha, Jin Charitra paintings adorned the Jain temple. Illustrations in the pothis, miniatures, portraits, scenes, etc. were also painted. Sculpture. Important specimens include the sculpture of the meeting between Mallama Desai and Shivaji Maharaj at the time of his Karnataka campaign. The sculpture at Bulleshwar temple, including sculptures of individuals and animals, example elephant, peacock, monkey. The sculptures of the Toke temple and the idols within. The Trishund Ganpati temple in Pune. The memorial of Punyashlok Ahilyabai in Madhya Pradesh. The sculptures at the Mohinraj temple at Nevase are important specimens of sculpture. Let's learn about metal idols. The Peshwas had specially commissioned the metal idols of Parvati and Ganpati in the Parvati temple for the purpose of puja. Wooden sculptures were also seen. Literature. Important forms of literature include the compositions of the sons, mythological narratives, tika, literature, ovi, abhanga, treaties, narrative poems, biographies, aartis of deities, povadas, bakhars, historical letters, etc. Drama. At Tanjavur in the south, Marathi plays has emerged near the end of the 17th century. Sarfoji Raje encouraged this art. Songs, music, and dance were prominent parts of these plays. So, so far we reviewed the medieval period of history and the rise and the expansion of the Maratha power. Next year, that is in your 8th standard, you shall study the modern period. So, this way we have completed the chapter and even the portion of history for standard 7. Do read the chapter from your textbook for a better understanding. Stay safe, keep learning, and thank you.